All right, boys. It's another day. It's another dollar. All right. We're serving up some good stuff today, okay? You know, we couldn't do anything at the end of the last week, I had a concert, I had a game to go to, everyone. But just know your boys are back. We're going to have a nice time. We're going to chit chat. We're going to shoot it. All right. Just to let you know, we're going to talk about the in-season NBA tournament. Whether you like it or not, we're talking about it. We'll get your opinion. We'll get my opinion. And then next, we're going to jump into some NFL news. DeAndre Hopkins signing his deal at the Titans. We got some lists coming up about corners and safeties. Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, and, Austin Eckler. They need some money. They want some deals. Joe Mixon signed him something as well. We got everything for you. We're ready to talk about it. We're trying to spice it up for you guys. We're just at that weird point right now in the season where, I don't really want to talk about Panama versus Mexico. It was a doozy of a game. 1-0 is all I have to talk about. You got the Women's World Cup coming up. We might dabble in there, but come on now. There's like 4 teams to pick from that are going to win the whole thing. So it's not a lot of excitement in that either. But, you got to give the ladies some love. So maybe shout out to the ladies. Maybe some spicy stuff happens. We'll talk about it. Yeah. So, boys, girls, get that popcorn and let's get it on. Coming in here hot, coming in here strong. Gonna go boom, 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 boom. All right. So, in-season tournament, NBA. I like that the NBA is actually trying to spice it up a little bit. They are adding a team to Las Vegas, according to what I heard the other day. Just some rumors, but it's pretty much set in stone. So they're probably going to restructure some teams. They're going to have to add another team as well. So there's going to be, a little bit more teams. But before they do all that, before all that starts, NBA is like, okay, let's spice it up. In-season tournament. There isn't much said about it. It's just something that they've been drawing up on the plans for, quite a long time now. But we're going to split teams into groups. Groups will play each other, and then people will move on based on that. I know you know a lot more about it than I do. We were just talking about how you talked about it a little bit more. So I'll let you start it off, and then I'll chime in where I think I'm ready to pick up on what you're laying down. But in my honest opinion, to start off with, I just think it's a good idea. The fact that it's like, win or go home kind of thing, you kind of get like a little bit like World Cup vibes from it because it's like a group. So then you play everyone in the group, and then you move on from that said group. You get a little bit of edginess from that. And the fact that it's like win or go home, it's like you get one and done. So it kind of gives like a little, NCAA March Madness tournament vibe also about it. I'll let you kick it off from there, but, I'll give everyone a slight rundown of it.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. So you pretty much explained the gist of it. Basically, there's going to be 6 groups, 3 for each conference, right? And the groups, from what they're saying, are based on previous year's rankings. So it says right here, Pot 1 will feature teams that finish 1st through 3rd. So in the East, Bucks, Celtics, Sixers, followed by teams 4 through 6 and 3, and then 7 through 9 in Pot 3. So just imagine that in both conferences, because both conferences has 3 pools, and then they kind of mash in the lower seeded teams based on the rankings from the previous year. So it's a good mix of the your higher teams playing each other, plus you get some lower seeded teams. So it'll, at least for the introductory rounds, it'll be a little bit interesting. But in each group, you play your opponent once, and these games are going to take place on Thursdays and Fridays, or Tuesdays and Fridays. So basically, from what they're reporting so far, is each team's going to play at least 80 games. And then you'll pool games on Tuesdays and Fridays, like I just said. And then you'll play 80. Well, you'll play more than 80, depending on whether if you make the tournament or not. So for minimum, you're gonna play 80 games. with the people who, whatever two teams reach the championship, are going to play 83. So basically, they added an extra game to the year for the two championship contenders, I guess, of this in-season tournament. But from there, as far as the pools, you play each other once, and then whoever wins, I guess each winner, the winner of each pool automatically gets into the knockout portion of the tournament. And then it's the next two teams with the highest win percentage. And I think those can be regardless of conference. I'm not 100% certain if they clarified that. So basically, the real in-season tournament is going to be 8 teams, and then that's going to be around late November-ish, early December, because I'm pretty sure the actual championship game
December 8th.
Yeah, December 8th. So
Sorry, December 9th.
So like, I guess it's like before bowl season or like early bowl season is when that's going to happen. So I think,
yeah. So they said like rivalry week for college football is Thanksgiving weekend, and then then you kind of have like one more week of games after that. So like December 1st is like the kind of the end first part of December is like where people end the season for NCAA football. So they're doing the championship and like all the important games kind of right after NCAA football is over and right before the bowl games, like the smaller ones start. You're kind of just far enough away from the NFL playoffs where it's like, oh, we're like 3 or 4 weeks away. I can, tune out of the, NFL for like a week to watch these finals games happen. And then, well, pretty much like NCAA basketball is just barely started. So like you can miss the beginning of the season a little bit.
Yeah. So to that point, they basically, I feel like they picked the perfect time because like you said, you're in between, end of the regular season for college, beginning of the regular season for college basketball. You're like in that sweet spot, especially before the NFL playoffs start too. So they're in a nice sweet spot, and they pick Tuesdays and Fridays, which are kind of like lulls. At least during the week, they're like lulls. So like, hey, let's get Tuesday nights. Let's get up to TNT. I'm assuming that's what they're probably gonna do. And then Friday nights, let's have them on ESPN, like whatever the biggest game is or the two biggest games that night. We'll put those on ESPN. So it makes sense for all parties involved, for the players, for the broadcast partners. ESPN, TNT. I'm sure they're really happy about this. Like I said, there's 8 teams in the actual tournament. And then from there, it's basically one and done until you get to the championship round, which you said is December 9th. And basically the winners, the whole prize of this whole thing is the winning team is going to take home $500,000 for each player. And then I think if the losing team will get $200,000, if you make the semis, you get $100,000. And if you make the tournament, you get 50. So at the very least, you'll get 50,000 for being, in the tournament, or at least the top 8 teams. I'll throw it back to you. How do you feel about that? I feel like the incentive, like I like what they're trying to do with the incentive, but I feel like, and a lot of players have already said this, former players, it's just not enough, especially from like a team perspective. Because if you're a coach or you're a GM, you're not going to push your players. I mean, you're still going to push load management at the end of the day. It's not enough. Wouldn't be enough for me.
In my opinion, I look at it in 2 ways, right? So if you're a younger roster, we're just going to throw some younger rosters in there, for instance, like the Oklahoma City, like Charlotte Hornets, Wizards, Detroit Pistons, Houston Rockets, like the Indiana Pacers. I'll just stop naming teams, but those are just, for instance, like those are the teams that in my opinion, I think the pot in which they worked it is way more incentivized to younger players. It's like, dude, if I'm on a rookie deal, it's kind of like the home run derby for the MLB, right? So like a year ago, Julio Rodriguez came in second, but if he had won the home run derby, he was making like $800K the season. If he won the home run derby, he was going to get $1 million. So in one night, he was going to make more money than his whole entire season. So some of these, younger guys, it's like, dude, I can win like a lot of money, like $500K. Like you, like so most like to most like NBA players, like oh that's not anything. But come on, dude, an NBA player like the Rockets, for example, like I'm pretty sure like we're looking at the roster and like the highest paid player was like 10 million, but like majority of the younger players are making like a couple 100,000 to uh no, they're making about 1 million to
And they're
about 5 million.
making rookie
Yeah,
scale deals. Yeah,
yeah,
not
they're
too
making
bad.
like 1 million to 5 million. Dude, 500K, that's like half a million. To some of the rookies, like that's a lot. I mean, that's like
I feel like for all the rookies, that's a couple of game checks for like
yeah,
every rookie.
yeah. So like if I make 3 million at the end of the year, I can literally make 1/6 of what I make in the whole year
Yeah,
in a week. And I also have to think about like the fact that teams that are older, they're not going to care about it. Like the Suns, they're not even going to try. Like these big teams like the Denver, they're not going to care about
Suns,
that.
Denver,
That's not what their mo is. So I think
Lakers.
this like really really gives a reason for younger teams. Older
Yeah,
teams, I don't think they're going to care that much, which is a good and a bad, right? Because obviously, we want to see the better teams kind of incite us more. However, I also look at it in a good because like you're giving these, I don't want to say like younger guys playoff experience, but it's still like a somewhat type of playoff experience. Whether or not it's the real deal or not, it's still a win or go home game. Just like the
yeah,
playoffs are win and go home. So like if, for instance, like a team like the Suns like 2 years ago, right? I think this kind of tournament would have been really good for the Kings. Sorry, did I say Suns? I
you
meant
did.
Kings. The Kings like 2 years ago, this tournament would have been like extremely helpful for them, like to give them kind of like any kind of like postseason feel before they hit the real deal. Right now, this last past season, and then you get the Warriors. Your first ever time making the postseason in years. So I think like teams like the Magic, like the Magic have some good enough players, or like they're like a borderline play-in team, right?
Yeah,
Okay, well, I do really good in this tournament. It kind of at one point in the season, I already went through the highs and lows of it. Like I was in the I was in the tournament style of the NBA in season tournament. So now that I'm in the playoff and playing game, I know what a win or go home game feels like. So if you're like a 10th or 9th seed and you did really good in the tournament, you kind of have like a little bit more confidence going there than the other team who may have been a little older of a team. So for instance, like last year's the Miami Heat, the Miami Heat aren't going to try in the in-season tournament, but you could have given you a lot of confidence going into the tournament or going into the playing game against the Miami Heat, even though they're better than you. I've still won a win or go home game before. Like I've been in those games, and all it takes is a few plays. So I just think that, like we were talking about, yes, I don't. Maybe the pot will grow to maybe make it a little bit more, appeasing to like some of the older players, but I still don't see how it will. I think the only way you make it appeasing to everyone is if you like add draft picks to it,
yeah,
or something like at the end of the season. I'm tied for the 6th and 7th seed, right? But like I won the in season tournament, or I made it further in the in season tournament. So I automatically get my leg up on a different team. Like I automatically have advantage over you. So like say the Warriors and the Kings finish with the same record, and they're gonna do all this funky stuff, do the tie break thing, like points scored, points allowed, all that crap. No, who went further in the in season tournament? Who went further? Okay, they went further. Okay, they get a leg up. I think that's something like that you could do, but I still think the better way to do it is like draft picks. Like you were talking about, like at the end of the first round, I was listening on Colin Cowherd. They were like, "Nah, dude, right after the first pick, right after the uh, what you call it, the lotteries, first pick. After that, goes straight to whoever won the in season tournament." Now, I think that giving the team like that, like a first pick right after the lottery, I think that's big incentive even for really good teams, because you got to think like a lot of these teams are trying to figure out how they can rebuild their rosters without having to spend a lot of money. I'm going to get some guys are going to go, some guys are going to leave. So if I can get like a good 16th pick, right out of the gate, I mean, that's pretty enticing. Or do like a rebuilding team. Okay, I'm getting a lottery pick, but I'm also getting the first pick right after the lottery. So I can double up. And then I also feel like that might, not to say it was a bad thing or anything, but I feel like that might, tick off teams kind of like the Oklahoma City, who have been, they've been building up draft picks, right? But now we're just going to give a 16th pick right after the lottery to, the team that won the in-season tournament, and then you're looking at the OKC like, oh, so everything I was doing is for a joke now? I think there's a lot of ways to look at it, but in the end, like, in my opinion, in order to get like older, and let's be realistic, most people want to watch the older guys or the guys who've been around the league a long time. Like, we want to watch them. Like, it's kind of who we grew up on. I think this is a good, I guess the way they're starting it, to get people into watching the younger guys, because this is like their time to shine. Because if you haven't noticed, younger rebuilding teams don't get a lot of airtime, like on TNT or ESPN or ABC. They don't get to play on Christmas Day. So I think it's a good way in order to get fans of younger players. Like, I know we all like to see LeBron James, but LeBron James isn't even going to probably play in this in-season tournament. He's going to take he's going to take the group stage off in order to rest up, and he's going to make Austin Reeves and Ruri. Those guys are going to have to step up and try to make some noise, in the in-season tournament, which I think is another thing you can look at it. Is you're going to have teams with older players. Well, this is a good time in order to get some bench depth, maybe grow some. Okay, maybe this guy, like, oh man, I kind of like him. I kind of don't know what he's about yet. I can't really give him good playing time during the regular season. But this little tournament, since I don't really care about it, I'm not going to play like my Kevin Durant's or my LeBron's or my Kyrie's. So now I have a chance to see what someone's about, who most of the time wouldn't play. And then that way I can get to see if I do make the tournament or do make the playoffs at the end of the season. I know this kid can actually perform. So we might have seen Austin Reeves blossom a little bit quicker than we would have this last season.
Yeah, I mean, you made some pretty good points. I really agree with the draft picks. I feel like that's probably the best incentive. And maybe they add it. I mean, a lot of people have said it, so maybe they even add it to this in-season tournament. Like, who knows? Like, I don't think we've heard the full details, and so I feel like there's still room for suggestions and stuff to make its way in there. But yeah, Colin had a good idea. Hey, let's add it to the end of the lottery pick. I guess 16ish. Let's just add a pick in there, make it 31 picks in the first round. Whoever wins gets that 16th pick. I agree with that. I feel like that's an extreme measure. I feel like we have to try what I was suggesting. Let's just add a pick to the end of the first round. That way it's valuable because it's a first rounder, but it's not that valuable. I feel like you need to test the waters with that because I think you said it pretty well. Like, you're gonna piss people off, like the Thunder and other lottery teams who have been rebuilding the right way, stockpiling picks, and you're just gonna piss them off by, oh, I'm Denver, or I'm the Lakers, or I'm the Celtics, and I'm a team with barely any picks, and somehow just because I'm the best team in the league, I can just every year just stack that 16th pick. That's just gonna really irritate a lot of teams. So I see that idea working, but I feel like that's an extreme option. And even then, I would probably have stipulations to it, maybe you can't trade that pick. You can't trade. You have to, whoever you get that pick, whoever you draft, you have to keep them for a year or something. You can't trade that pick pre-draft or during the draft. There has to be some type of stipulation, because you don't want. Because think about it, if you're the Suns, if you're the Lakers, you get the extra pick. Plus, you already have to pick, maybe you already have that pick for that year. Then you already have 2 first rounders. You can package Rui and then go get like another superstar. Like, I don't think the league needs more player movement and to make it easier. I don't think that's a good idea. But you're right. Like the younger guys need a stage to show off, to showcase themselves. I feel like this is the perfect stage. Like you said, the older guys, they're still going to load manage. There's not much incentive for them. They're making 30, 40, 50. Some of them are approaching $60 million. 500K that's chump change. I mean, that's crazy to say, but that's just the reality of it, right? So they're not going to be too motivated. And, a lot of those guys making that money, they're older. They're in their 30s. Like, they're on the back half of their prime. So it doesn't make too much sense for them to play extensive minutes just to win. I mean, hey, some of them are nice. Maybe they want to win their young guys, a little bag. And I'm sure some of them will play, the in-season tournament if they get in. But I feel like the majority are going to kind of push back. I know I watched JJ Redick's podcast today, and Gabe Vincent, like a guy who hasn't even made a lot of money yet, he just got a bag for, 3 years, $33 million. He said that 500K doesn't even motivate him, and like 500K is probably like a game check for him. I mean, $10 million a year is a lot, but it still ain't like $50-60 million. So even someone who's making like decent money, it's like, okay, well, 500K doesn't do nothing for me. Especially, why are you incentivizing in-season tournament more than, the playoff win share, because players get more money based off how deep they go in the playoffs. So he was saying that, hey, I just got 200K for coming in second in the NBA Finals. Yet, if I win this tournament, you're going to give me 500K? Like, it's not really, the math isn't mathing, So I kind of agree with him on that. JJ said the similar thing, like, it doesn't really make sense for players right now. And even he said, like, hey, you probably got to add some like draft stipulations in there. That's the only way to get both the players and like front offices and coaching staff, like, kind of on the same page. Like, it needs to be a win-win situation with, the whole collective. So, but yeah, I think the youth will definitely play a big part in this. I definitely think that my prediction is probably like a mid-tier team is going to win this year. I don't think a top. You're not going to see a Nuggets. You're not going to see a Suns. You're not going to see a Celtics or a Bucks win. You're going to see a team like the Hawks or OKC or I don't know, maybe the Clippers. Like the Clippers need to win something, so maybe the Clippers will win.
Okay, so I mean, I looking at it right, just looking at the groups, and this is just being a little exaggerant looking at the groups, but like in my opinion, I think like OKC, like you said, OKC, and probably like no, I wouldn't even say the Timberwolves, just OKC, the Rockets, and I know it's going to be crazy to say, but probably the Lakers are going to be the 3 teams out of the West that qualify. Just because I think the Lakers have enough younger guys in which they're going to kind of want to do it.
Look at the groups are just like for the taking, especially the West.
Yeah, the West, like Group C, it just sounds like OKC because like I think in my opinion, the Kings are going to be thinking about playoffs a little bit more than they're going to be thinking about this in-season tournament.
Yep.
The Warriors are too old; they're not even going to try. They're not going to throw out Clay, Curry, Chris Paul, Green. They're not even going to try to get those guys hurt. They're going to let them take the couple weeks off. They don't need it. They also don't need the money either, so they don't care about that. Minnesota's one of those teams where it's like iffy because, like, okay, Anthony Edwards, he could show out for it. But what does Anthony Edwards need the money for? There's someone like Gabe Vincent saying, I don't need the money. Anthony Edwards, hella don't need no money.
He just signed it back too. He don't need that.
Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't need no money. So then you go to the other team in that conference is like the Spurs. And in my opinion, I just think OKC's a little bit better than the Spurs. They're probably
for sure.
They're just 1 year ahead. So the only other team in that conference that group is going to try is the Spurs. Okay, so you look at the West B. Nuggets aren't going to try. Clippers aren't going to try. We don't even know what the Pelicans are going to be like, but I can't see their good players trying, like McCollum and Ingram aren't going to play. So the Rockets are that team that's like, dude, they're going to go all out for it because they're all young and they all want some money because they ain't got big contracts like Gabe Vincent. Now, I could see a team like the Mavericks trying. Kyrie ain't going to try. But I just feel like Luka's one of those guys who's just going to do it just because he wants to.
Yeah.
So you couldn't see Luka just try to spoil it for everyone. He doesn't care about the money. He just wants to win games. And if he can win, he might try it. And then you look at the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are going to be in a weird situation where all their guys are making enough money where they're not going to care. Ja's Ja's missing like the first 25 games, right? So
he might not even.
He might be like borderline eligible. Like this might be like his comeback tour kind of thing. The Suns, of course, aren't going to be playing. They're going to be resting up. Lakers are that team that's like, dude, they got enough good young talent. Like Austin Reeves just feels like a gritty guy. He's just going to play hard just because he wants to play hard. Rui probably wants to play hard just to play hard. So they have like a good enough talent where missing LeBron and AD probably sitting due to like load management. I feel like they could still make a little noise, whether or not they make like bench noise. The Jazz are like a team that's like
sleepers in that group.
They're sleepers, and then Portland, we don't even know what they're doing, so we're not saying anything about Portland yet because they haven't done anything with Dame. Now they get rid of Dame and they get a bunch of young guys, then I could see them doing something like that. But then you look at the East, right? 76ers definitely aren't even going to try because half their team's Embiid, and Embiid's not going to play. So the Pacers and the Pistons in that group and the Hawks, that's just the group of death because all three of those teams, in theory, should be trying really hard.
Yeah.
The Hawks are probably the best team of that group. I can't see the Cavs trying very hard, even though I think Donovan Mitchell's one of those guys who might just try hard just to try hard. So in my opinion, you got 4 teams right there that are like, they're in
contention. Yeah,
they're all 4 just going to try. But then you look down at the EC. I could see the Nets playing hard just because some of their younger guys, and I don't know, Mikal Bridges plays every single game. He's probably going to play the in-season tournament just because he wants to play.
He's Iron Man.
And then Cam Johnson's the same way. So you could see them like just bullying like the Raptors, and I can see the Raptors not playing Siakam and OG. So you could see those guys like sitting because they don't need the money. The Bulls, but we don't even know what the Bulls are yet. They still need a point guard. They're not really a bunch of young guys either, so they're probably not going to play very hard. But they're also like one of those like teams like they're not going to play hard in this, but they're probably not making the playoffs either. So we don't know what the heck they're doing. So in that group, you got like the Brooklyn Nets and the Magic are only going to be the 2 trying in that. And I just feel like the Magic are going to try really hard. I don't know if it's like you, but I just think like the Magic, Pistons, like Houston, OKC, those are the teams that are going to try extremely hard. And then you look at East B. Well, that's just like the most boring group of all. If you look in East B, I think Hornets and Wizards try. The other 3, they don't care.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler, Bam, they're not going to try. Kyle, they're not going to try. They don't care about it. And that money doesn't mean anything to them. Jimmy Butler can make a YouTube video and make almost half of that. So he doesn't care about that.
This is true.
The Bucks, none of those guys care about money. They all got the bag right now. The Knicks, they're one of those teams like, they might try just because they want to. So the Knicks could be that little spoiler team, or their front office sees them in good playoff contention and says, "No, we're not going to bother." So then you got the Wizards, who arguably are going to try really hard just because they're kind of young. A lot of those guys want to get bags. Like Tyus Jones, he wants to get some money. Kuzma, he just signed for a lot of money, so he might not try. But he's also young enough where he might just play just to play it. But then you got like the Hornets. All those guys want to make big deals, and so in order to make big deals, you got to show out. And like that's going to be another thing I was saying. Like if you're on some of these teams like Wizards, Pacers, Pistons, I wouldn't say OKC, like the Jazz, you're on a team that's like borderline playing, right? But I want to play in the playoffs, and I want a guaranteed shot at the playoffs. Some of these guys are going to try really hard in this tournament because their younger guys want to play really hard. But then the older guys, dude, I kind of want to go play for a good team. So, like, you got like a Jordan Clarkson for the Jazz, right? Jordan Clarkson kind of wants to play for a title. He shows up really good in the in-season tournament. He's been in trade rumors for a year and a half now. Jordan Clarkson goes out there, balls out, and says, "Hey, I can go do this for someone else too. Come on, just come pick me up." So I feel like it's gonna be the middle of the pack teams, like you said, and then I don't want to say bottom feeders, but the younger teams are gonna be the two that go after it. Younger teams are going after it for money. The middle of the pack teams are doing it because one, I need practice for the play-in. Two, I want to show everyone out right before the trade deadline because the trade deadline's in a month and a half after that. So I think that kind of gives you I think the in-season tournament is basically everyone's show-out case to get traded. Like you're on a mediocre team and you're really good. I show out during the in-season tournament, and then I immediately get traded for right before the trade deadline.
Yeah, and the NBA knows what they're doing, right? There's a reason why they picked it. Like I said earlier, like not only is it like a lull in between different sports and their playoffs or their regular seasons, but it's also right before the trade deadline, and so you're pitting players who normally might not get the spotlight in these pressure playoff atmosphere type situations. Teams know that the teams that are going for it are going to want to show off their their players, their assets, right? So I just think that it's just going to make an interesting situation. Like you said, like players like Jordan Clarkson, who have been attached to rumors for a while. Hey, their GM is going to just give them like a little nudge and be like, hey, we've been talking about trading you for a while. Hey, let's give it all you got. You're gonna be on TV for X amount of games. If you play well, maybe we can get you to Team X or Team Y. Like you're gonna see that a lot. Even some of like these, like if you think about it now, even some of these like contenders, like championship contenders, like this is good for them because they're gonna ask their young players to play a lot, and it's gonna showcase their talent as well. So maybe they can gain some trade value for those players, and there could be some more moves come trade deadline. Because this summer for the NBA is kind of like a lull in terms of trading too. Like this is like all around, it's just going to create more buzz, and I think that's the whole objective. Even if people don't like the way the NBA is going about it, which, to be frank, I mean, what other way was there for the NBA to kind of spice things up? Like, they've done a lot of original things. It's not a bad thing for them to, take something from a different sport or a different league and trying to, make their own twist or put their own like little spin on it. I feel like that's a great idea. They've done a lot of original things. It's okay to borrow or copy someone else's success. It's okay to do that. And I feel like, hey, if I'm generate more buzz, we get more trades during December, we get more viewership, we get more merch sold, we can sell an extra game to the broadcast partners, to the fans. We didn't even talk about this yet, but they're going to pit I think the semifinals and the finals are going to be in Vegas, which you said earlier in the intro. Vegas is pretty much locked in as an expansion team. We don't know when, but the fact that they're pitting, like, they're dedicating like what, at least 4 games or 3 games for Vegas, that says a lot. Previously, it was only Summer League. Now you're going to throw a whole NBA game with 30, 40,000 people in a packed arena, however many people they can fit inside of a Las Vegas arena. That says a lot. So, all in all, I feel like it's great. I have no problems with it. Do you have a problem with it as a fan? As we're part of the media now. Like, do you have a problem with that?
No, I like it. I think it's important to constantly. I don't want to say innovate. I was gonna say innovate because okay, no offense, I like the play-in tournament, but like it's kind of one of those things. It's like, it's a good idea, but I can tell what you're trying to do is just like have a few more games in order to make a little bit more money. But in reality, you saw that it did kind of like it made it more enticing, especially with the Heat making the run they did.
This was the first year. Yeah, it made a difference.
I think it proved a lot that like it was. I think it was like an important addition. It was like, okay, you can say like, oh, the Heat should never have been there because they should never made it. Okay, but you kind of saw what the NFL did by adding, 7 teams to the playoff on each side. No one who has gone in at the 7th seed yet has been like, I want to say dominant, but like no 7th seed team has like shook up
more than a game.
has shook up or scared, to have people shaking their boots yet. Like the NFL hasn't done anything like really innovative in a while, but and to be fair, the NFL, they can't do like an in-season tournament or anything. Like there's not a whole lot they can do because those guys are getting beat the hell out of. So to be fair, I don't think we're asking the NFL to do those kind of things. No. I think we're asking more of the NFL to like, dude, let's be able to challenge penalties that are stupid. Now, if the NFL did that, okay, that's innovative, and that's what we wanted out of the NFL. I want to be actually able to challenge a stupid call, or I want to actually see the replays instead of you taking us to commercial and then coming back from commercial, and then never showing us anything that happened. And I think that's one thing that the XFL did a great job at was, dude, we watched Dean Blandino literally talk us through why he believed what was a foul or not a foul. And okay, you can say, well, okay, Dean, well, that's stupid. It wasn't a foul. But you still had to respect the fact that, like,
that's what he was going with.
Yeah. He literally told you, like, motion by motion what he was thinking. Just because your thought was different, but you still respect him for actually physically showing you what he thought or why he thought it.
Yeah, USFL did the same thing. So shout out to both of them for innovating where, some of these leagues like the NFL. And it took the MLB a long time too. Like it took them 100+ years to get basically a shot clock in the MLB. Like this should have been like a no-brainer.
But my only thing with the MLB, like the timer for pitching, I think they need to add a few more seconds to it, but I think it's a good idea. 20 seconds was a smart start with, but I think it should be more like 25 seconds. Like, because there was one guy, he was talking about it. It's like, dude, as a pitcher, like some of the closer guys, for the past seasons, we've seen closers be kind of like, big, hefty boys, a little bigger. You can't have no offense, you can't have a fat pitcher anymore because cardiovascularly, it's just too much to keep trying to pitch and pitch and pitch every 20 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, those are the older guys that are kind of, falling out, put on some weight. They can only pitch for an inning or two.
Yeah, made sense. I think like adding it to 25, 30 seconds, but the fact that they still did it and they still tried to do something exciting, I thought that was smart, Yeah. They actually do replays now, even though before it was like so hard to do a replay. Just other sports have done other things that were kind of innovating, exciting, creative, I think it's a good idea. Like it kind of gives like a soccer-y vibe, like MLS, for example, they had the Lamar Hunt trophy. It goes on at the beginning of the season. Does anyone ever watch the Lamar Hunt trophy? I do, but I'm just one of the few. We know Damon does. Our friend Damon watches it. But I mean, outside of that, like, diehard fans, they watch that stuff. Just like, diehard fans watch the Champions League over there in Europe. Now are they at the same level? Nah, Champions League is way better, way higher. But it's still something interesting to watch, kind of in a point of the season where, it's the first few weeks of the European soccer season. Dude, they're still trying to figure out their rosters. They're still trying to figure out their teams for the first transfer deadline. Same thing with NBA. First couple of weeks, it's okay. It's not like the greatest thing ever. People are still trying to figure each other out. A lot of team changing. But I think the most important thing that this thing does, it gives people who don't get seen some TV value. It gets those people who are finally getting seen some trade value. So, like, as an East Coaster, I don't ever get to watch the Jazz. So I don't know how actually good, I'll just say it again, Jordan Clarkson's doing or Laurie Markkanen's doing. But, I know they're good players, but now I can watch them and now I can see that they're valuable. And now I can spam on my, Twitter page. Come on, come on, come on, so and so. We got to make this move. We need some more shooters. Like the Nets. Okay, yeah, we need more shooters. We need more shooters. Blah blah blah. We need more shooters. Boom, get yourself a shooter. I just think it's a smart move. My only issue is, I think like we've been saying the whole time, I think it's a good concept, right? You just got to find out the perfect balance in order to get the better teams to actually want to play, but also I don't want to incentivize better teams trying really hard. I kind of don't, in my opinion.
No.
I think I'd rather watch, the young up and coming teams or the borderline playing teams. I'd rather see them have some more action. So maybe it has more like playoff weight as well. Like, okay, you make it further in the tournament. Like I said earlier, you make it further in the tournament, you have more weight than the other team does. You're just weighed differently. So if I'm sitting there at the 6th or 7th seed and I'm weighed a little bit higher so I can miss that play-in, okay, that kind of incites me. But I like the idea of making it completely unexciting to like the Nuggets or the Suns or the Clippers. We don't want to watch you anyways. We watch you every other night essentially. Like, you're always on TNT, you're always on ESPN, you're always on ABC. We're not trying to watch you. We're trying to watch some of these younger guys, so that way I can find a new guy to pay attention to, because I'm not going to have LeBron James for 10 more years. I get LeBron James like 2 or 3 more years.
100% agree. I think this is the right first step, and I think it's only up from here. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But so far, sounds good to me.
I just think it's going to be interesting. Like one of those guys. Remember how like JJ Redick was like he never missed the postseason for 17 seasons? What guy going into this in season tournament is like that guy who's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do like what JJ Redick did, and I'm just going to make it to like 17 straight knockout stages of the in-season tournament. I think there's going to be some people who try to like make that their whole entire vibe. And I'm here for it. Someone's got to have something, Everyone's got to have a gimmick. All right, so moving on. Good conversations all around. So moving on, we're going to talk about the cornerback and safeties list for the NFL. We're going to give our hot goss about that. And then we're going to dabble into a little bit of rapid fire about the state of the league and contracts corners. What do you like calling them safeties? Regardless of what you call them, they're both under the they're both under the umbrella of defensive back. So, DBs, we're going to talk all about them. First, we're going to start with CBs. So in the DB category, we're going to start with CBs. And I'm going to give you the list. I'll give you the top 10. And then as soon as I give you that top 10 list, I want you to immediately attack it. Tell me who doesn't belong, who belongs, what said, what not. I know you got it pulled up, so let's just get right into it. So at number 1, I'll read them kind of slow for everyone at home. Number 1, you got Pat Surtain, the second from the Denver Broncos.
A dog.
At number 2, you got Sauce Gardner from the Jets.
A dog.
At number 3, you got Jalen Ramsey, technically Dolphins, but last year, based on this, he was at the Rams. But we're going to go with the Dolphins. Jair Alexander of the Green Bay Packers. Darius Slay of the Philadelphia Eagles. Marlon Humphrey of the Baltimore Ravens. Marshawn Lattimore of the New Orleans Saints. Trayvon Diggs of the Dallas Cowboys. Denzel Ward of the Cleveland Browns. And last but not least, A.J. Terrell of the Atlanta Falcons. Honorable mentions, Xavier Howard, J.C. Horn, Tariq Woolen, Tre'Davious White, and L'Jarius Sneed. You just honorable mentions so I don't say your team. Anywho, okay, what's the first thing? I know you already told me. Tell everyone at home. What's the first thing that either grinds, just gets your gears going? What grinds your gears really bad? What was that first thing you heard when I said it that just didn't make any sense?
Not that it didn't make sense, but I feel like Jalen Ramsey is a little bit too high for me. Jalen Ramsey over the past a couple years, so 2 years, has just been getting cooked way more. like, when Jalen Ramsey first came out, yeah, he was like giving me like flashbacks of like Revis Island. He's big, he's physical, he's quick.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't fall for double moves a lot. But as of late, I just feel like he's just. I mean, of course, when you get older, you start to regress a little bit. But I mean, at 28, he shouldn't hit that wall yet. I feel like he's kind of. I mean, the Rams defensively, in terms of their defensive backs, he definitely was, putting the team on his back. He didn't really have a lot of help, even at the safety position. So I do give him a pass there, but I've seen too many times where Jalen Ramsey's falling for double moves, just getting outright like guys just blowing past him, not being able to physically jam corners off the line as well as he used to a couple years ago. So having him at 3 it's a small issue for me. Darius Slay, same thing, but I kind of give him a pass because he's older. He's 32 years old. He played well last year, but that's just because the Eagles as a whole, the defensive backfield is really, really good. So that's probably why he's a little high. Probably would have him further down the list as well. And Humphrey, he's good individually as a DB, but same thing with the Rams and Jalen Ramsey. Baltimore secondary is not the best, so the fact that he's 6, to me, it should be like an honorable mention. But other than that, I have no problem. I feel like everyone's in the right spot besides those 2 or 3 guys. Surtain, to me, is the best corner, but I think the gap between him and Sauce is very, very small. So we'll see, how that plays out this year. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, piggyback off you, in my opinion, I don't think Denzel Ward gets enough, I guess, love and respect. I think
Yeah.
I would have moved him a little higher because he's just so physical. But like, okay, you got to look at what conference he's playing in. He has to be physical. He gets, he gets Jamar Chase, and if he's not doing Jamar Chase that game, he gets Higgins. He's getting one or the other, and both of those guys can easily be number one. So he's getting both of them regardless. You look around the league or look around other people he has to play every week. The Ravens don't really have anyone that jumps out at you, but those are important games to look at. Now, when he plays in those games against like the Ravens, like I just said, does he get cooked? No, he doesn't get cooked. He does good in those games. Those games will make him look really good. So why he's so low, it kind of baffles me a little bit. Again, with Trayvon Diggs, I kind of like him a little bit more. I kind of would have put him a little higher. In my honest opinion, I think going from 9, 8, and 7, I think I would have pushed up 1. But respectively, they all just stayed in order. Like Marshawn Lattimore, I think he only is at number 7 because of the fact he missed half the season last year due to injury. But I think I would have put Lattimore, Diggs, and Ward above Humphrey, and I think I would have moved Humphrey down below them, and I would have had Jalen Ramsey move from 3 down to 5. I would have moved Jair Alexander up 1, and then for me, honestly, I kind of have to question even putting Darius Slay in the top 10. When, in my opinion, I didn't even think he was the best corner on his own team. I thought Bradbury, in my opinion, was just a little bit better of a corner last season. And all we're going to talk about is, Bradbury's mistake in the Super Bowl, but he didn't hold him. Him. So, in my opinion, I think Bradbury, low-key on his own team, had a better season. With that being said, I think, in my opinion, I would have pushed up Tariq Woolen to the top 10. I think Tariq Woolen deserves to be in the top 10. So I think I probably would have pushed everyone up a little bit. I would have had Tariq Woolen or like 9 or 10, but I would have bumped him in the top 10. And I would have taken out, like I said, I would have taken him out. AJ Terrell, I was giving a little crap earlier, but at number 10, right above honorable mentions, I think that's just basically kind of like where he belongs. Xavier Howard did have a regress of a season last year, so I get him. He's an honorable mention. J.C. Horn for the Panthers, he deserves to be an honorable mention. He doesn't deserve to be in the top 10. He doesn't stay healthy enough to be in the top 10. I mean, Tre'Davious White arguably could be in the top 10, but like we said, last season he was a little bit injured, so it's kind of hard to put him up in there. But the one thing that got us both is I don't think L'Jarius Sneed deserves to even be an honorable mention. He just deserves to be also receiving votes, so I barely see his name. You know what I mean? He doesn't deserve to be in the top 10 or honorable mention. So, and then I think at that point, I would have had James Bradbury bumped out of also receiving votes, but put up in the top honorable mention slot. And then, like, some other guys they have here in the also receiving votes. I think DJ Reed for the Jets helped make Sauce Gardner look so good last season. So I think I would have put DJ Reed a little higher. I don't know how this little also receiving votes works, but I'm assuming it goes based on more votes. So I think I would have put DJ Reed with a little bit more votes. I definitely would have given Tyson Campbell of the Jacksonville Jaguars a little bit more votes. Those are just my, little thoughts.
I agree.
But I got another list for you. We're not done. We're still in DBs. We're still talking about it. So I'm going to lead you another list. You tell me what your thoughts are. So first, but foremost, we're not doing free safety, strong safety. No, we're just doing safeties. So at number 1,
put them together.
Minkah Fitzpatrick, Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 2, Derwin James Jr., Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Simmons, Denver Broncos. Number 4, Budda Baker, Arizona Cardinals. Number 5, Javon Holland, or is it Javon Holland? Sorry, Miami Dolphins. Yeah. Number 6, Jesse Bates III, Atlanta Falcons. Number 7, Kevin Byard, Tennessee Titans. Number 8, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Detroit Lions. Number 9, Tolona Hukafananga. I don't know, dude. I hope I said it right. Hufanga. I just know his name's Hufanga, okay? Hufanga. We're just going to go with it.
We don't know.
I'm trying my best here. San Francisco 49ers. He's still a beast, though. I will say he's still a beast. And at number 10, Antoine Winfield Jr. And in your honorable mentions, you got Marcus Williams, Quandre Diggs, Kyle Duggar, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Xavier McKinney, and like Jalen Prite of the Houston Texans. So, again, I ask you, who doesn't deserve to be in that top 10, in your opinion?
I don't. With this list, I don't really have too many problems with, mainly because of the fact I don't know too many other safeties in the league nowadays. I feel like, just like looking down the list, a lot of these guys are mid-20s, early 20s. So a lot of these guys are freshly drafted, or maybe they've been, only been in the league 2-3 plus years. So I'm okay. Like the top 3 guys, I'm definitely sold. Like, okay, that's probably the right rankings for them. Budda Baker as well, even though we don't, in terms of where he's going to be next year, we don't know. He requested a trade, but he's very good. He's one of the older guys on this list. Yeah, I feel like they got this right. Just taking a look at it. Yeah, I feel like they made the right choices. Marcus Williams for the Ravens, I guess, but like I said, everyone on the Ravens defensive backfield got cooked. So, maybe individually he's good, and it says, just reading his little write up, deflected 8 passes on 20 targets for ridiculous 40% ball hawk clip. So, he failed to make the Pro Bowl, but just I'm guessing they kind of put a more emphasis on stats. So that's one where I'm kind of questioning, why is he honorable mention over some of these other guys like Tyrann Mathieu, or even some of the other, like Jalen Pitcher or Pite, or I don't know how to say his name, but Micah Hyde or Kyle Duggar. I feel like some of those guys probably should be above him, but in terms of honorable mentions. But I guess if you don't make the top 10, it doesn't really matter. So I'm not going to get into the
The nitty gritties of it.
The nitty gritties of the honorable mentions, but the top 10, I have no problems.
Yeah, I mean, so I understand. Okay. So my thing is, I don't think Micah Hyde deserves to be on this list. And I know that's going to be. I know he's only in honorable mentions, but I still stand by it. He didn't play, but I think 2 games last season.
He got hurt really, really early.
He got hurt in like the second week. So
yeah,
I just think that, like, in my opinion, that's not a. If we're basing it off last season, right? Which this thing is, I think that's just a bad look to have a guy who played 2 games. We can still say that Micah Hyde. I mean, in your opinion, if you really want to do it, you could put Micah Hyde in also receiving votes, but you can't put him in honorable mention. That just seems a little disrespectful to a guy like Tyrann Mathieu or Jeremy Chin or Eddie Jackson, who are just sitting right on the outside, who played a full season or played majority of the season. A guy who played 2 games is
2
above
games.
you.
Yeah,
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I
mean, so in my opinion, right? I think Antoine Winfield. I told you earlier I didn't feel like he deserved to be in the top 10, but I also think that, like, it's kind of hard to put anyone above him. So I kind of will just accept him at number 10 and have the honorable mentions the way they are. I still think I would have put Quandre Diggs of Seattle at number 10, but that's just me. I know I should be saying his name right, but Funga, I think, deserves to be higher than 9, in my opinion. I mean, he's just really dominant, and I think he was part of the reasons why the 49ers defense was so, I wouldn't want to say extreme, but like was so effective, was he was a safety that could play linebacker, but wasn't built like a linebacker. So he's kind of like a Jeremy Chin type, but just a little bit more effective on a better team. I think Jeremy Chin's just as effective as he is. Jeremy Chin's team is just not as good as his was. But CJ Gardner-Johnson, I think that he's finally going to be able to put like his money where his mouth is, kind of thing. Like, dude, you kind of were just one of the guys on the Saints, and you kind of were just one of the guys on the Eagles. Now you're kind of like the guy at the Detroit Lions, and they're essentially going to ask him, the way I see it, like he's playing a hybrid slot, safety, linebacker kind of ish role. So the coach is essentially trying to say to him, yeah, we're going to use you like a Malcolm Jenkins, and you got to be okay with that. And not everyone wants to play like Malcolm Jenkins. Everyone forgets that Malcolm Jenkins wasn't the greatest thing on earth. Malcolm Jenkins kind of did every single thing that you could want in a DB-ish guy. So I think you're going to see him take on more of a Malcolm Jenkins kind of role. I think Kevin Ballard is a little bit lower than I would like, just because he's just consistently plays every week. He's there every week. He seems to always be doing something to disrupt someone for the Titans. He seems to be always part of like the big plays for the Titans. So maybe I move him up 1, just flip flop with Jesse Bates, because Jesse Bates was kind of in and out of the lineup last year with some injuries. But other than that, I think they hit everything right. The only knock on Derwin James in his career has been injuries. The last 2 seasons he's played almost every game, so I mean, can't knock him for that. The only one I might have a questionable now is Budda Baker. Like, who's he going to play for? Because he doesn't want to play for the Cardinals. The Cardinals are pretty much bad. We're just going to say they're just pretty much bad the majority of the season, because Kyler Murray's not going to play until like the very end of the season. So offensively and defensively, the team's going to struggle just because the defense is going to be on the field forever. I think Budda Baker's kind of either got to get traded before the season starts, or he's got to make a big name for himself at the very beginning of the season. He can't just do, cry me a river, I'm sad kind of thing. He's just got to play really strong and hard the first couple games and just get someone, I wouldn't say give up the bag, but like just trade some young pieces for him in order for him to get out of there. So I kind of agree with the list outside of, the nitty gritty being trying to do too much, but I think the only person that should get booted down a little bit is Bates. But even when I say he should get booted down a little bit, he's not dropping more than 1 spot. So
yeah, 100% agree with that.
So yeah, I really don't have a problem with any any of that list. I think it's a way better thought out list than if we had to compare them the corners list. I think the corners, just a little bit more tweaking. But anywho, finally, we're gonna wrap it up today, boys, with some rapid fire. So we'll be right back. Pew pew. We're gonna have some good times, back, boys, with a good show for you. All right, to wrap it off with our rapid fire. First things first. Austin Eckler. Man wants to get paid. Man's is upset that third string wide receivers are making more money than he is. Now I'm just going to throw a little facts at you real quick. What makes this a little bit more heartbreaking for him was he basically played every single game with the Chargers. Yep. He was their leading receiver with the Chargers. He had 107 receptions with the Chargers. The next highest guy on the list for the Chargers was, I think it was Jordan Palmer or DeAndre Palmer. I just know his last name is Palmer. Don't know what his first name is. Can't remember that one. However, he had 77 catches. Austin Eckler, 107 catches. So tell me why we're going to be paying, some third-string wide receivers across the league, a little bit more money than Austin Eckler, who literally is your whole offense. And, you're kind of like at this low point of you don't know if you want to, try to revamp your offense or not. But regardless, I got a young quarterback, and I need to make sure he stays comfortable, which means keeping pieces that make him comfortable around. So you tell me, why is Eckler not being paid? And if so, how does my boy get paid? How do running backs in general get paid? Because other topic, Saquon Barkley can't even get paid.
Or Josh Jacobs. Yeah.
Or Josh Jacobs.
I think it's kind of ridiculous, right? Everyone's situation. And if you go back to basically what started all of this was, Eckler at the beginning of the offseason asked to be traded because they couldn't come to terms with a new contract. He clearly outplayed his current contract. Before the draft, asked for a trade. They weren't willing to listen to his trade demands. So he kind of went back and forth with them. Ultimately, they settled on an extra $1 or $2 million in incentives. Really? That just shows you how much the NFL devalues running backs. And it's so sad because people on Twitter, Twitter is usually wrong about things, but they were right about this. A lot of people were saying hey, you want a guy to carry the ball 300 plus times, catch 100 plus passes. You want them to stop Aaron Donald when they're pass blocking, and you want them to run through 10 other guys who are trying to kill them, but you don't want to pay them a long term reasonable deal. Just sign them for 10. All they're asking for is double figures, and teams are so hesitant to even do that. It's just mind boggling. And I mean, in Eckler's case, you just made a good point. He basically led the team in everything, basically played every single game last season. The fact that he even has to ask for basically beg for more money is ridiculous. I get it, he's up in age, and history has shown us running backs, and once they hit a certain age, they start to decline. But I feel these owners, their pockets are fat. They got a lot of money, right? Just pay your players, man. Just come up with a way to pay these guys. Because the running backs are one of the most important positions on offense. Well, let's just be real. You're not going to win a Super Bowl without a decent running back. You can't win a Super Bowl with trash running backs. So pay at least the decent guys. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, he basically said on the Rich Eisen, so it's it's not even about the money. It's about the principle. It's dude, if I bring a lot of value to your squad, do I not deserve something in return? I mean, He's not saying, he needs $20 million. He pretty much is asking for $12 million, which in my opinion, I don't think it should be that hard to give him $12 million, because then they're but then we have to pay Herbert. And no fault to Herbert, but dude, you ain't getting max money, and you shouldn't be getting close to max money. Shouldn't be in the thoughts of max money. I get it. You look really good on the court, on the field. Have you won a playoff game?
Nope.
No. Do you have one of the worst blowouts in playoff history? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, no, not even sorry. We're not blowouts. Sorry. Worst
Fumbles.
upsets, fumbles, choke
fumble the
jobs.
bag, choke job. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the worst ones ever, and you can't blame Eckler for that. The man didn't turn the ball over once. He didn't fumble the ball. You threw 2 interceptions though. So it's just one of those things. I kind of also said the same thing about Lamar, but here's the difference about Lamar though. Lamar has an MVP. Does Herbert have an MVP? No,
Nope.
Herbert doesn't have an MVP. So we're not even in the same category as Lamar, because you can say the same thing about Lamar. Dude, Lamar, you've only won 1 playoff game. I still won an MVP. That still means something, and it does. I mean, he gets you at least, 11 to 12 wins a year, 10 at least.
At least 10.
Does Herbert even barely get you to the playoffs? No. So, yeah, I mean, like the value for Eckler deserves to be a little bit higher. He deserves to make at least $12 million. And then the next thing, picking back off that, is like we'll move into Saquon Barkley. Okay, you didn't even give Daniel Jones you didn't even give him that bad of a contract. Like, it's not like Daniel Jones got paid like a stupid amount of money. Now you can't afford to pay Saquon.
3 years, 120 it's a little overpaid, but it's okay.
It's okay in my opinion. I think it's fine. I think you might have paid like $10 million more than you should.
Yeah.
But let's think about it. In like a year from now, the market will fluctuate and change a little bit, and then we'll look at the contract like, oh, it's an okay contract. It was okay, but Daniel Jones didn't take away too much money from the team in order for you not to pay Saquon. It would have been different if you gave Daniel Jones like 140, 150 million. No, you give him 30 million less than that. So like, you can give Saquon $12 million. It shouldn't be that hard.
Should not.
Especially when you don't have any wide receivers. It'd be different if you had a wide receiver you had to give money to or something. You don't got any wide receivers.
You have a suspect tight end.
Yeah, the best weapon on your offense is your running back and your tight end. And your tight end has never proven to be anything better than a fantasy tight end.
Yes.
He's just good at fantasy football.
Yeah.
He's the complete opposite of Kyle Pitts.
Yes.
Kyle Pitts is great on the field, doesn't get you any fantasy points, doesn't get you any touchdowns. But, Waller will give you touchdowns all day. But the problem with Waller, last couple seasons, injuries. So,
yes.
And then you got Josh Jacobs. Like, dude, Josh Jacobs, was literally almost carrying your team at one point. And all you did was blame it on Derek Carr. Okay. So the blame was Derek Carr. Okay, so that was your scapegoat. So then what's wrong with Josh Jacobs? Because I'm pretty sure most teams around the league are looking to way to get Josh Jacobs for cheap. Yeah. And if having to pay Josh Jacobs like $10 million is what I got to do, I think I would do it. But regardless, I don't understand why you don't want to pay a guy. Because certain teams that are paying their running backs are consistently good.
Yeah.
So I just think it's one of those like, and it would be different if like these guys, they couldn't pass catch. So like I can understand like a running back who only runs up the middle. I want to get you hard-nosed yards. I don't want to pay them, double-digit figures. I can start understanding that, like a Zeke Elliott, right? Zeke doesn't catch balls out of the backfield very often. That's what they use Pollard for. So now they moved on to Pollard. But like even Derrick Henry's catching balls out of the backfield. So Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Eckler, they're some of the best at doing both. Yeah. I mean, Eckler, you can honestly argue, is just a different version of McCaffrey. Because you can just put both of them out in the slot and just say, have fun. And they can both play slot if they wanted to.
Yep, this is true.
So I think it's an arguable thing that, like, if I'm Austin Eckler, you could say, okay, I want you to label me as running back / wide receiver. Now you got to pay me. Because I'm wide receiver, So
yeah, and talking about these other guys, they're the top running backs of the last season. Josh Jacobs, Saquon led their team to many victories. Saquon was the main reason why they got off to a hot start because of him, and they kept the momentum just enough so they snuck into the playoffs. No one thought the Giants last year were going to be a playoff team because we all thought, hey, Saquon's going to get hurt. Daniel Jones is going to be Daniel Jones. But let's be honest, he set the tone from the jump. And he played the whole year for the most part. So whatever, it was basically him or bust. And let's just be honest. Like you said, they don't have receivers. Their tight end they traded for, but like I said, he's suspect, doesn't play consistently enough. Great with the fantasy numbers, but on-field impact is, a little suspect. Is it really as valued as how much he's getting paid? That's a, conversation for another day. But him, Josh Jacobs, even some of these other guys that are about to get paid or, have deals upcoming, like Pollard, like he's playing on his tag, but arguably he's really important to the Cowboys. Najee Harris is up for contract in a couple years. We'll see how that goes. But I just think that these teams are asking too much of these running backs. You want them to do everything under the sun, but yet you don't want to pay them the big dollars. So I feel like you said, is probably what they should be doing. Like these guys like Eckler, McCaffrey should just refuse to carry the ball. Nope, I'm not going to carry the ball 300 plus times. I'm going to carry it like 100, 150, but I want you to line me up in the slot. So that way you have to pay me like a receiver.
Yeah,
Even if it's not, I don't need Justin Jefferson money. I don't need Cooper Kupp money. I don't need what Jamar Chase is about to get, but if you can give me a good 15, 20 million, I can go line up in a slot and catch you 100 balls a season and still carry the ball 100, 150 times. Like, I feel like maybe that's the way running backs should evolve into. But also, I feel like together, and I said this to you offline, but these running backs, the top ones, they all need to sign similar deals so they all become free agents at the same time. And once they do that, once they all become free agents, they all just need to like sit out. Just, hey, we're not going to sign for anything except for like whatever their cap, like whatever their floor is. So if it's 10 million, 12 million, 13 million, whatever they all decide is like the minimum that they, they're trying to set the market for themselves. They need to band together because let's be honest, the teams are going to have to pay them. They're the best of the best. They just can't. I mean, it's easy enough to say that we can find another running back, but these guys are the best of the best. You're not going to find another McCaffrey. You're not going to find another Eckler. They're not going to have the same production. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to say it. The Chiefs got lucky with Pacheco. So,
yeah, they got real lucky.
You don't get that lucky very often. And then moving on to people who can get paid. Last but not least, we'll end it off with Hopkins, Mr. Our boy D-Hop, as some call him, DeAndre. He got paid by the Titans. He got himself a good little 2-year contract.
Yeah, a little bag.
I got a little bag. I think the important thing about this contract, though, it did a few things. It made sure DeAndre Hopkins got paid what he thought he was worth. He got paid a pretty good bag. Second, he's not stuck at the Titans long term, so he can move away in a year, 2 years from now, and still probably get good money because he's not going to be what I think he's going to be 31 by the time he leaves, or is it 31 or 30 when he leaves the Titans. So it's not like he's going to be too old where he can't get another contract, so he can easily sign for another deal somewhere else. And then lastly, he kind of put himself in a nice spot, right? We were all saying that the Jacksonville Jaguars were just going to run away with the conference, or not conference, sorry, was the division, because there wasn't enough competition in it. Well, now you got to take a step back because, I mean, let's be realistic. The Titans, the last couple of years, their biggest issue, well, I wouldn't say a couple of years, but last year was trying to replace A.J. Brown. Now, to be fair, A.J. Brown wasn't A.J. Brown with the Eagles when he was with the Titans, but he was still pretty good. Now, you got DeAndre Hopkins, I guess, to finally help out those younger guys because they got two good young wide receivers. But, it's kind of hard going out there and playing number one corners as a young wide receiver, still developing, still trying to figure everything out in the league. So now you got D-Hop to worry about that. And, now those two younger wide receivers, we can finally move Burks back into the slot like he played somewhat in college at Arkansas. But it also allows him just to go speed route. I'm just going to run a straight fast line like I did in college. And now I have to pay attention over the middle to DeAndre Hopkins because the man can catch anything.
Yeah.
So I think the Titans have actually, and in doing so, signing DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry also doesn't have to carry the load as hard either. You're not going to ask Derrick Henry to carry the ball 35 times a game anymore because now we're going to pass the ball around because now we got some, I wouldn't say legitimate talent, but I got higher end quality at the wide receiver position. So I think it was a good move for the Titans. And in my opinion, I think DeAndre Hopkins could even got more money. So the fact that they got him for what they did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan. I understand it. He wanted his bag. He's 31 years old, so like you said, in 2 years, he'll be in the back half of his prime. I'm not going to say his full prime. He'll be in the back half, depending on if he gets injured or seriously injured or anything like that. Hopefully, it doesn't. But only time can tell. But he definitely sold out for the bag. I think that's the first thing I thought of when I saw the signing on Twitter. Just based off of what he was saying going into the process, like he listed the quarterbacks he would love to play for. He wanted to play for those top tier quarterbacks. He's tired of making quarterbacks. He wants to play for a good defense, which Tennessee has let go a lot of people, so it doesn't really make sense there. He wants to play for a good front office and a good coaching staff. I guess front office is debatable. Coaching staff, debatable as well. At the end of the day, this was just for money. I can never blame a player for wanting money. But just basing off what he was saying prior, it's kind of puzzling to me. When I thought, I was talking to some guys at work today, I was like, I thought New England was the perfect spot for him. A good prove-it deal, similar contract to Adele with New England would have been perfect. Mac Jones, yeah, he's not a good quarterback, but he's back with Bill O'Brien. He's with, old man Belichick. They probably would have figured something out. The Bills would have been another good choice if he really wanted to, go and win, go be on a contender. But this just wasn't, I guess, serious choices for him. So congrats to him. Like I said, never going to fault a guy for wanting money, but I felt like there was, based off of what he was saying earlier, there was, better choices out there for him.
In my opinion, I think the Titans defense is probably borderline a top 10 defense, especially with that head coach. So I won't fault him for that. He did kind of stay within that line. The one line that I thought that he kind of crossed with his signing was he said he wanted to play for a good quarterback. I get it, not wanting to play for Mac Jones because Mac Jones could technically fall under the category of too young of a quarterback because he said he didn't want to play with the young guy. Yeah, he's arguably fall underneath that category. However,
he does.
Like I said, Tannehill is not a great quarterback, so you kind of, just showed everyone that everything you were saying on these podcasts was just talk. It was just
BS.
Just air.
I don't like that. If you should say what you really mean. Don't. He literally did a 180. You said you don't want to make quarterbacks anymore. You want to play with great quarterbacks. You listed 5 or 6. So those are, and all those teams were prepared to sign you. So I don't understand. I don't understand. And even in Tennessee, you don't even know if Tannehill is going to be your starting quarterback. You don't even know if Will Levis is going to start. You don't even know if Malik Willis is going to be on the team. So it's just a shit show in terms of the quarterback room. Excuse my language, but that's just that's just the point.
No, you said it just right. And especially since if you look at the available players from the wide receiver market that are available, the best wide receivers available are Byron Pringle, Julio Jones, he's old and washed at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Galladay got paid and didn't do crap, so no one wants to pay him now. Sammy Watkins, he's just been around everywhere. He's a little bit past his prime. He's still kind of young enough to be in a prime. So
Yeah.
Jarvis Landry. Like, there's no more hitters out there. So, this was a lot of teams' last chance to get, like, the guy to help them out at wide receiver. So
Yeah, to put them over the top, yeah.
So I guess we gotta, give a little hate to those teams for not pursuing a little harder. But great show today, man. I had a great talk with you.
Great show.
Until next time, my friend.
Until next time, see you guys later this week. Peace.